All right, so we always have two major forces pulling on us when it comes to fiction writing. The first is that we want to tell our own unique story. We have a story knocking around in our head, and it's just begging to be written and put out to the masses, right? And we want it to be our own unique story, and we want to write it the way we want to write it. And, we want it to be epic, and we want it to be specific to us, and we want to do things that no one's ever done and really blow our readers' minds, right? But on the other hand, we're always being told, and, I'm one of the people who have probably told you this, that you have to kind of stay within certain rules, within certain boundaries in order to get your reader to connect really, really deeply with your story. So there's kind of what feels like this contradictory push and pull, tug of war sort of thing between should I be writing a unique story that is, really coming from my soul and the story that I'm really longing to write, or should I be writing a story that will connect with readers very deeply, Which is it? One or the other? Well, I'm here to tell you today that you can actually have both. That's what we're going to discuss. It's something I've been thinking about for a long time. Hi there, aspiring fiction author. Welcome to Fiction Author Business School. Do you want to write your stories with ease and confidence? Do you find yourself Googling how to write a fiction book or how to write a character arc? Do you want to create a fiction empire, but you can't even finish the story you're currently working on, and you find yourself doubting it will even be good enough? Hi, I'm Liesl. I too have been writing stories since I was just a kid. I wanted to do something about my fiction writing dreams, but got information overload every time I looked for writing help because there's just so much out there on the internet. I wanted confidence that I wouldn't disappoint my readers and a plan to publish regularly. I knew the foundation of any author career, including the marketing aspect, is a stellar and well-written story, but I didn't know how to be sure that my story was solid. I went on a journey to figure out what really makes readers tick and how to incorporate those addictive elements into my story. In this podcast, you'll find specific, tactical fiction writing tips, solutions to writing more words more efficiently, and secrets to mastering your author mindset. So, put on your fuzzy slippers, grab a notebook and pen and some chocolate, and let's write some fiction. I'm going to introduce you to something that I call soul stories, and I'm really, really excited to talk to you guys about this concept, so stay tuned. Okay, so I have not been in your podcast feed for about a month now, and I would love to say that I took that month off on purpose, but that is not entirely true. I was doing a lot of things at the end of January, and I knew I was going to have to take a week, maybe two off, but I didn't mean to take a whole month. I actually got sick, and I completely lost my voice for about 10 days. Obviously, not a great thing for a podcaster, so I ended up being gone for longer than I meant to be, but I hope everybody had a fantastic end of the month and that you're doing really well, and I'm back now. So I'm going to try to get back into my normal once a week podcasting schedule. At least that is my intention. I've been creating a lot of things and I have a lot going on, but I really, really love doing these podcasts for you guys. Okay, so let's get to today's subject. So as I said in the intro, we are constantly being told two different things, or rather, we're being told one thing, but everybody sort of feels another thing. Obviously, what you're feeling is that you have a story you want to write, and you want to write it however you want to write it. You want it to be your unique story. You don't want to be told how to write your story. You don't want to be told, giving any restrictions on that story. And believe me, every author feels that way, especially in the beginning. But on the other hand, we're constantly being told there is no such thing as a truly unique story, and you should use story templates, or you should, stay within genre conventions, things like that. And they can sometimes feel a little bit contradictory. So if you are an aspiring fiction author, the question is, should you write a unique story or follow these templates to make sure that your story connects with readers, right? If you want to write something from your soul, what if you want to write something from your soul, but also want to connect with readers? What if you also, on top of that, want to make money on your fiction, but still want to write something that really feels like it's come from you and isn't just a trend or a fad or some sort of form fiction? Can you have both? Does it have to be one or the other? The answer is yes, and also no. So let's unpack this a little bit. Let's start with the no. Why you should not try to write a unique story, okay? So it's true that at their core, there are really no unique stories. There are only a handful, maybe a few dozen. The number changes depending on who you talk to and exactly what, you're going on. It's also true that all human beings absorb story in the exact same way, and I call that the human template for storytelling, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. The point is, if you really want people to connect with your fiction, buy your fiction, rave about your fiction, and then return to you again and again to buy more of your stories, you need to present the story in a way that humans naturally connect with, okay? It's all about human psychology and why people read stories to begin with. Now, everything I just said makes it sound like you can't possibly write a unique story, right? Wrong. Notice how that I said, at their core, there are no unique stories, but that's only at their core. When you pan out from the core and get into the layers, the characters, the details, the world building, and all the other aspects that make up a fantastic story, the opposite is true, okay? The details are endlessly different, okay? They can be as varied and nuanced as human beings themselves are. So just keep that in mind. There is some truth to saying that there are no unique stories because they all boil down to the same kind of elements, but that doesn't mean that you can't write a completely unique and different kind of story and still capture your reader, okay? So why should you always try to write a unique story? The short of it is that only you can write the story that you have knocking around in your head. And I know that is cliche, and it's something that I say a lot, right? I've said it in my intro and outro before. Only you can write the story that you're thinking about. Here's the thing. In order to be a successful fiction author, your story must connect deeply with readers, which we've already talked about. A mediocre connection leads to mediocre reviews and mediocre royalties, okay? So you're not going to be terribly successful if you don't figure out how to create that connection with your readers. Now, a minute ago, I mentioned psychology and the human template for storytelling. But what is that? What does it mean? I don't always define it very well when I talk about it. Okay, in a very broad way, the human template for storytelling is a lot like one of those story diagrams that we first saw in grade school, okay? You know the ones I mean, like where the line starts at the bottom left corner of the page with the introduction and the call to adventure, and then it moves upward in a diagonal line until it peaks with the climactic moment, and then it usually does the short little tail that doesn't come all the way back down to the bottom of the page. I remember that used to bug the crap out of me. And it's usually labeled falling action or denouement, right? So on a very basic level, that is the human template for storytelling. But obviously that's not all it is. That's very, very broad, okay? Understanding that little graph that we've all seen before is not going to make you an excellent fiction author any more than, knowing where middle C is on the piano will make you a concert pianist, all right? It's just a start. It's the very most basic representation of it. So the human template for storytelling, it is that graph, but it's a lot more. It's all the details. It's all the plot points. It's all the character wounds. It's the story arcs. It's the world building. It's the character relationships. It's the congruency of the hero-villain relationship, okay? It's everything, the entire world of fiction stories, okay? The short of it is that it's the full spectrum of transformational human psychology. I know, that's a lot of big words, but I often talk a lot about a character undergoing a transformation or writing transformational stories, right? This is just another way of saying that. And, no big deal. You just have to be a successful author, you just have to learn the entire spectrum of transformational human psychology. No big deal. We'll just get right on that. But here's the thing. Think about any story you love, like really, really love. It can be in any format, film, book, play, even some songs. Every story you've ever connected with has at least elements of this transformational human psychology. That's why you connect with it, okay? And remember Vogler's definition of story, which is my favorite one. A story is a metaphor for a journey that leads to change. So all stories are about change. All stories are about characters overcoming things or kind of creating a new plane of existence for themselves by learning something or growing in some way. And even though it sounds a little bit overwhelming the way that I said it, using all the big words and the egghead terms for transformational stories, it's really not as hard to learn as you might think. You actually already know a lot about this because you're a human being, right? All human beings know this kind of thing. The difference, I think, between a regular human being and a fiction author is that you, as the fiction author, can observe it and intentionally put it into your stories, okay? So on some level, what we're doing is we are pointing out this transformational psychology to our readers and helping them absorb it and helping them become aware of it on a conscious level so that they can have an emotional catharsis and kind of integrate it into their lives as well. In a lot of ways, this is how we serve our readers, okay? So you just have to start doing this intentionally, using the psychology to craft your stories. And this is a skill that I call writing soul stories. So what is a soul story? This is a story that only you can tell, as I said before. And I promise I mean that in the least cheesy, least cliche way possible. Actually, it still all goes back to the human psychology element, okay? So I've said this before, but if we were to give 3 different fiction authors the same outline for a novel, and we're talking everything is exactly the same characters, with the same names, the same descriptions, same events in the plot, same arcs, same world building elements, everything exactly the same in a fairly detailed outline, and ask them all to write the story, we would still get 3 completely different stories. And of course, it's a matter of their writing style, their diction, their syntax. Those will all be different, but you got to understand it goes way, way deeper than that. Of course, it will be different for those reasons, but you have to understand that the sum total of your personality, your beliefs are a big one, your attitude, your experiences, your joys, your traumas, your religion, your politics, your family life, and even your physicality, the things you deal with physically, all of those things color the way that you write and the way that you see a story and the way that you see human psychology and transformation, right? So it's very, very true that only you can write a particular story. And it's more than just the way that you get the words down on the page. It's the way you approach it. It's the way you're thinking about it. It's the way you're visualizing it in your mind. It's the context for that story based on what you have experienced in your life, right? So a soul story does really 2 things. It follows the human template for storytelling, and it comes from all the unique things that make you uniquely you, right? In other words, a soul story is one that does connect deeply with readers because of the human the human template for storytelling. I keep saying that wrong. And it also allows you to tell your unique story. It does both. And that is why I want you to get used to the concept of soul stories, because if you can learn to write every story that you ever want to write in your life as a soul story using these techniques, you will always be able to write the story that you are yearning to write that's coming from your soul, from your subconscious mind, and out of your spirit. But you will also be able to connect it very deeply with readers, which means that it will be a successful book, okay? So we all know that readers can connect deeply with powerful fiction. That's understood. And that's because powerful fiction reaches them on a subconscious or soul level. And that's something that I want to take a moment for you guys to understand. We talk about, and I talk a lot about, the subconscious mind and how readers experience stories on a subconscious level. And we should be writing our stories from a subconscious level. But all of that subconscious level is just really another word for your spirit, okay? And that is why things like meditation and breath work and all of that, self-hypnosis, anything that people call it, there's lots of different words for it. They always call that spiritual work. And this is why. Saying that it's your subconscious mind is just kind of a non-spiritual or non-denominational way of saying the same thing. And that is why I always say that you can both meditate and pray. They're not exactly the same thing, but they're very, very similar. And it's kind of like 2 different forms of the same thing in a way. So just understand that those 2 things are interchangeable. When I talk about, tapping into your subconscious mind to write your story, that's a story that's coming directly from your spirit. And your subconscious mind or your spirit is the seat of your creativity, okay? So that's important to understand. Now, here's the general idea. You writing your unique soul story, and then the reader reading that story and connecting deeply with it is synonymous to your soul connecting to the soul of your reader, okay? Maybe that sounds a little bit convoluted or even just woo-woo to you, but it actually is true. And this is why fiction can be so powerful. It does more than just entertain, uplift, and teach. Of course it does those things, but it can also heal the reader in many ways. And when it does that, the healing happens subconsciously in ways that can't really be quantified, okay? But I would also contend that writing the story can heal you, the writer, in many of those same ways. Writing a soul story or many soul stories over the course of your life can teach you things about yourself that you would not otherwise have known. And this is true no matter what genre you write in. Okay, so no matter if you write dragon fantasy, dystopian romance, men's military survival fiction, reverse harem. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as it is coming from you, it is coming from your unique experience, and it is your soul story, and also follows the human template for storytelling so that it's connecting with the readers, you still have that soul story, and you will still be able to heal your reader and yourself with that connection. Okay. I really do believe this on a deep level because I've seen it happen. I've talked to people who it's happened for. Think about people who, talk about, say, Harry Potter, and they say things like, I had such a terrible childhood and Harry Potter just saved me because I could escape into that world and I was best friends with these people. And fiction really does that for people. Okay, I think that's why we all want to write it so badly, because on some level it did that for us, even if we didn't consciously realize it at the time. All right. So bottom line, if you follow the human template for storytelling and write the story from the utterly unique perspective of your own life and experiences, it will be a soul story. And if it's well written, readers will connect with it. It's impossible for them not to. Okay, so imagine knowing how to do this and being able to do it with any story you ever write moving forward. And just as a little aside, I'm not going to go into this today, but these really well-written soul stories that follow the human template also happen to be very, very easy to market. Okay, if you write it this way, you almost have your marketing completely done by the time you finish writing the story. Okay, that's kind of an added perk. And that also means that you can be financially successful with it, which is kind of why we're all here, right? So that's pretty much what I have for you today. It's something that I've been thinking about lately, and I hope that that strikes a chord with you and kind of helps you as you move forward throughout the week and go to do your writing, and just kind of start thinking about these things and start leaning on, the seat of your creativity a little bit more. Now, all of that said, if you are somebody who has a manuscript that you are trying to finish, maybe this is something that you started years ago and it's been in a drawer for a long time, or maybe it's something that's brand new and you're just getting started on, but you're having a hard time finishing it, you're having a hard time filling it out, maybe you are stuck on some aspect of your manuscript or your outline, and you don't know where to start it or how to finish it or how to fill it in, but you have a dream of finishing it so that you can get at least this one story, or maybe it's one of many, out to the masses and really publish it and make a go of this fiction writing thing, then I would love to be your coach and help you to do that. And to that end, I am going to start offering, as of now, free manuscript audits. So what does that mean? It just means that you can book a free call with me. There's no cost to you, except that it may be used in a future podcast episode. So that's kind of the exchange. I'm not going to charge you money, but it may be used on the podcast. And if you are stuck in any aspect of your manuscript, whether it's plotting or a character arc or world building or theme or any aspect at all of the storytelling, if you are stuck, you can schedule one of these calls with me and I will help you get unstuck, okay? We will just hash it out and we will figure out the best way for you to move forward and finish your story. So if that is something that you would like to take advantage of, you can go to bit.ly/manuscript audit, all one word. I will also link it up in the show notes, and that will take you to my Calendly site, and you can book a call. Okay. So if that's something you're interested in doing, please do that. I look forward to hashing out your manuscript with you and helping you to get your story finished and out to the world. Beyond that, I hope everyone has a wonderful week of writing, and I will see you back here next time, same place. Bye, guys. Thanks so much for listening today. Before you go, would you be willing to do me a solid? If you found any value at all in this episode today, would you be willing to share it with other authors just like you, in the hopes that they might find some value in it as well? Happy story crafting this week. Remember, only you can bring the world the unique story that you are trying to tell. Only you can succeed in your own unique way in getting it out of your mind and your heart and into a medium where it can reach thousands, if not millions, of salivating readers. You don't have to worry about failure, because there is always a market for awesome.